Next topic.
Well, I mean, there's the big talk right now is I don't think you're really up on it. Is the guy Michael Reynolds who got he was killed in a shootout.
Well, the reason was because so you gave me this topic and I kind of was
Yeah.
like, what? And then you said, but it was distracted by this other one. And I said, oh, that's
Right. Yeah. Oh, right. Exactly. I fell for it too, and I went down the rabbit hole with the other one, and I guess we'll explain that.
Yeah.
So I think a week ago in I can't remember. I think it might have been Washington State. A guy from Patriot Prayer, I think is the group, a Trump supporter, was shot and killed by this guy, Michael Reynolds. I think it's pronounced Reynolds. I might have that wrong. And of course, the left is screaming, "Oh, it was all self-defense," and they're invoking Kyle Rittenhouse, and all these different types of things. I mean, the scenarios are completely different. There's video footage of this guy, Michael, screaming out, "Oh, we got a Trumper right here. He's right here," just before going up and pulling the trigger and shooting him. And, of course, the left is screaming all self-defense when he just ran off afterwards. He didn't stick around to be like, "Oh, I was in danger," and whatever. He hightailed it out of there. And ironically, or whatever the case might be, the autism of 4chan managed to identify this man. They scoured the footage, and he had like a BLM tattoo on his neck, kind of distinctive, and they managed to track him down and get his name, his information, a 48-year-old man, all sorts of stuff. Now, they didn't do anything crazy. I believe they handed it over to the police. But the narrative is now switched. This is a leftist Antifa BLM supporter, appears to have shot a Trump supporter unprovoked. It looks like he's hunting them down. And a long story short on that, quite recently, he was in another gunfight in Washington State, and he lost his life. He's been killed by the police in an exchange of fire. Oh. Now, this is where the game gets afoot. And this is why you probably didn't hear about it, and I fell for it as well. Just as all of this was unfolding, and there's an interview on Vice. Vice interviewed the same guy before he died and stuff like that. Another story suddenly showed up on the mainstream media. It's a story about how Trump, on Veterans Day in France, did not want to go to a particular cemetery where the Americans are buried. And this is in the Atlantic, and basically saying that Trump called the American soldiers losers, suckers. And he did, or suckers.
And suckers, I should say.
And yeah, probably both. And that he didn't know which side was the good guys, and just all of these supposed anonymous sources that came out of absolute nowhere put this story out, and that becomes the news cycle. And what we are realizing now is the leftist media realizing they have a shit story with one of their own that they've been defending as fucked up, killed a Trump supporter. Mm-hmm. To kill that news cycle, they concocted this shit out of the Atlantic. Which is why you heard about it, I heard about it. I was like, what nonsense is this?
That's the thing, was once you brought up like, oh, here's the distraction story. I'm like, oh, I heard about that thing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's how crazy. Even Mike, what's his name? Bolton. Who's Bolton? Bolton was the Secretary of Defense.
I think so.
Yeah. Bolton just put a book out, and he's not pro-Trump. He's actually quite antagonistic to Trump. Yeah. And he recounts the day that this happened in France. They have the logs and stuff, and they were saying, look, Marine One cannot fly. It's a weather issue. It's a 4-hour motorcade. They're concerned about security, so they cancel. They have all the logs and everything like that. And he says, look, I was there for all of these meetings. Nothing like this was actually said.
Yeah.
So the Atlantic being a complete propaganda wing, to try and cover up this story.
Yeah, I'm seeing some videos coming out talking about how the Atlantic has been caught doing a lot of pretty sketchy things with the articles.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I mean, the media is so shit. It's somebody was talking about it. Like, if you go all the way back to the time of World War One, and you read some of the articles and World War II, what the media was saying at the time, I mean, they've always just been on the wrong side of these issues.
And then now we turn back and we look at World War One and Two as sort of these heroic struggles.
Yeah, but there was it was worse back then because all you had was the news. You couldn't go on YouTube and you couldn't listen to us on a podcast or anything like that.
But so this is the thing is, and it's not to go and say like, bad history will instantly be turned to good if given enough time.
Right.
When I look at everything that's going on right now with Trump and all that, and there's a lot of commentary obviously on both sides, and some people think he's going to save the West, save the U.S. and all this. I'm kind of like, oh, come on. But then people are like, he's Hitler and he's going to take all our guns away and he's going to kill all of us. I'm like, oh, come on. And then I just kind of look at it and go, well, give it a couple decades and I'll ask, some kids, so what'd you learn about Trump? Oh, I learned he was a this, that, and the other.
Yeah, every president becomes a saint after they leave office, right?
Except Woodrow Wilson, because the Fed.
Well, Woodrow Wilson is actually responsible for why the U.S. got involved in international wars in the first place. But that's another side of the story.
See, that makes him even worse.
I know, yeah, he's hated on both sides. I agree. But I mean, I don't know if you were around in the time when George Bush Jr., so W, when he was in office. He was hated. The same, I mean, not to the level we have with Orange Man Bad.
Yeah, his response to 9/11 and all this stuff, Katrina, all these things.
Katrina, Trump doesn't care about black people, Were you there? Yeah, Kanye West.
Bush doesn't care about black people.
Bush doesn't care about black people.
And then
Mike Myers. It's like, what the fuck?
yeah, Kanye, yeah.
So, I mean, it wasn't to the level of the Trump derangement syndrome that we're seeing, but he was definitely the devil, right? Post 9/11, after all of that, once you got into Afghanistan and Iraq, that's when Bush started to collide, and he became the devil. Fine. But now everybody's, Bush, man, little pictures of him, he's hanging out with the Obamas, it's all good, man. There's no problem, man.
So hoops or whatever crazy
shit
you're doing.
Him and Michelle Obama, like the best friends, and it's all good, it's all love and all this shit. Every president, I think, basically becomes a saint. I don't know if it's going to happen with Trump.
Yeah, but according to conspiracy theorists, they're all just gang banging like a bunch of weirdos they are. No, I'm just kidding. You've heard about all that crazy shit. Apparently the elite, they're sacrificing virgins and whatnot.
That, and the kids have to get scared to boost the blood so they could drink it or take it intravenously.
No. What's this stuff called? Something chrome.
Something chrome. I don't know what that is.
It's like some something tritochrome or something. It's like some chemical they try to extract from kids to give them. It's like how they get their youth.
Yeah. It's I've heard the conspiracy on this, and you have to scare the kids to infuse their blood with this thing, and anyway, anybody who's into, and we'll touch. Hopefully, we'll get to the Joe Rogan podcast stuff, and we could ask people,
DMT?
to fill us in on what episodes has the crazy shit.
Oh, here we go. Adrenochrome. That's what it is.
Oh, who's saying that?
Tom Bombadil there. Yeah, adrenochrome. Because it's an adrenaline-based sort of compound, I think, that like gives people, this youth.
Makes them young.
Yeah.
Anyway. So just closing out the story with this guy, just the final point on that is his sister recently gave an interview. Well, she released some audio tapes when the police called us to say that he died in the police shootout. And she basically kind of said it's not exactly bad news. It's just news. Like he was obviously problematic from before, and he wanted to be a martyr. And supposedly his last words were civil war. So yes, that is why this whole Atlantic story has come up, because this character, unlike Rittenhouse, is it Rittenhouse? Rittenhouse.
It's with an R.
With an R, right? Rittenhouse. Yeah. That was last week's story. I'm out of the loop. But unlike him, who, you can see he was running from the crowd doing all this. This guy ran to the guy, and he keeps saying, I thought I was threatened. I thought I was in danger and whatever. But there was no evidence of any kind of danger. There was no evidence of the guy trying to do anything. So it's not looking, good for these rioters and these other people out there.
Right.